Have you ever stood in front of a mirror and wondered why you look the way you do? Why you were born into this particular family instead of another? Why your body carries certain strengths while also carrying certain weaknesses? Why some people seem to move effortlessly through life while others struggle from their very first breath? Most people believe these questions have only biological answers. They point to genetics, inheritance, chance, or simple coincidence. Modern science explains how the body is formed, but it rarely asks why one soul arrives in one body while another arrives in a completely different one. The ancient Vedic sages approached the question from an entirely different direction. According to the Vedic worldview, the human body is not a random accident of nature. It is the visible result of an invisible journey that began long before birth. Long before your first heartbeat echoed inside your mother's womb, your soul had already traveled through countless experiences, collecting the consequences of every action, intention, attachment, and desire. Those unseen impressions became the blueprint from which this life would unfold. In other words, your body is not simply something you possess. It is something your soul temporarily inhabits because it perfectly reflects what it needs to experience. This idea may seem unusual at first, yet it explains one of life's deepest mysteries. Why are no two human beings truly alike? Even identical twins, born from the same parents and sharing nearly identical DNA, develop different personalities, different challenges, different desires, and different destinies. The Vedas suggest that while biology builds the physical form, karma determines which soul enters that form and why. Karma is often misunderstood. Many imagine karma as an invisible force that rewards good people and punishes bad people. But the Vedic understanding is far more profound. Karma is simply the universal law of cause and effect operating upon consciousness. Every thought, every action, every intention plants a seed. Some seeds bloom immediately. Others remain dormant for years, lifetimes, or even longer, waiting for the right conditions to bear fruit. Nothing is ever lost. Every act of kindness leaves an impression. Every selfish action leaves another. Every fear, every attachment, every act of courage, every sacrifice becomes part of the soul's unfolding story. When one lifetime ends, the physical body returns to the earth, but these subtle impressions remain with the soul. They travel forward. When the time comes for another birth, those impressions help determine the circumstances that will offer the greatest opportunity for growth. They influence the family into which the soul is born, the environment it enters, the relationships it encounters, and even the body through which it will experience this new chapter. This changes the way we look at ourselves. Instead of asking, "Why was I unlucky?" the Vedic seeker begins asking, "What is this life trying to teach me?" That single question transforms suffering into a classroom. Imagine a student entering a university. Not every student receives the same curriculum. One studies medicine, another studies engineering, another studies music. Their classrooms, teachers, and assignments differ because their goals are different. The soul enters human life in much the same way. Every body is a classroom. Every challenge is part of the curriculum. Every experience becomes a lesson carefully placed before the soul. This is why comparison is so dangerous. You cannot compare your examination paper with someone else's and assume life has been unfair. Their questions are different because their lessons are different. The person blessed with extraordinary beauty may be learning humility, The person blessed with wealth may be learning generosity. The person facing illness may be developing patience. The one carrying physical limitations may be discovering inner strength that comfort could never reveal. From the outside, one life appears easier than another. From the perspective of the soul, each life is uniquely designed. The Vedas repeatedly remind us that what appears to be a blessing can become a burden, while what appears to be a burden can become the doorway to wisdom. History offers countless examples. Many people blessed with fame eventually become prisoners of public approval. Many people blessed with physical strength become consumed by pride. Others, who endured extraordinary hardship, became some of humanity's wisest teachers, because suffering forced them to search for something deeper than worldly success. The body itself is never the final reward or punishment. It is simply the environment in which consciousness evolves. Think of a sculptor working with stone. Every strike of the chisel removes something unnecessary. To an observer, the stone seems to be losing pieces of itself, yet the sculptor sees something different. With every strike, the hidden masterpiece becomes clearer. Life often works the same way. The difficulties connected to your body may not exist to diminish you. They may exist to reveal who you truly are beneath everything temporary. Perhaps your body has taught you compassion because you understand pain. Perhaps it has taught you discipline because good health never came easily. Perhaps it has taught you gratitude because every improvement felt like a gift instead of an expectation. Perhaps it has taught you resilience because life demanded strength long before you believed you possessed it. These qualities belong to the soul, not the body. And unlike physical appearance, they do not disappear with age. Modern culture teaches us to judge the body almost exclusively by appearance. We celebrate youth. We admire perfection. We chase ideals that constantly change with every generation. But the Vedic sages looked beyond appearances. They asked a different question. What kind of consciousness is growing within this body? Because eventually every beautiful face changes. Every athlete grows old. Every powerful person becomes physically vulnerable. Time treats every body equally. Yet wisdom, compassion, courage, self-control, and spiritual understanding continue enriching the soul long after physical beauty fades. This is why the human body is described in the Vedic tradition as both temporary and sacred. Temporary, because it cannot last forever. Sacred, because it offers the soul an opportunity that few forms of existence provide, the ability to consciously transform itself. Your hands can comfort another person. Your voice can encourage someone who has lost hope. Your mind can seek truth instead of illusion. Your heart can learn forgiveness instead of resentment. Every ordinary day becomes an opportunity to shape the future of your own consciousness. This understanding also removes one of the greatest burdens people carry: self-hatred. Many spend years wishing they had someone else's appearance, someone else's health, someone else's talents, or someone else's life. But if your body truly reflects the lessons your soul came here to learn, then rejecting your body is like rejecting the very classroom that was chosen for your growth. That does not mean you neglect it. The Vedic tradition never teaches indifference toward the body. Instead, it teaches responsibility. Care for it. Strengthen it. Keep it healthy. Feed it wisely. Allow it to rest. Discipline it. Respect it. but never confuse it with your eternal identity. The body is your instrument. It is not your essence. A musician carefully protects a priceless instrument because it allows beautiful music to emerge. Yet no musician mistakes the instrument for the music itself. Likewise, the soul uses the body to express love, wisdom, service, creativity, and courage. The body enables these expressions, but it is not their source. This understanding slowly changes the way you experience life. Instead of asking, "Why don't I have what others have?" you begin asking, "What is this body preparing me to become?" Instead of seeing every difficulty as proof that life is unfair, you begin recognizing each challenge as another opportunity to strengthen qualities that cannot be taken away by time. Perhaps your greatest gift has never been your appearance. Perhaps it has always been the character your experiences are quietly building. The Vedas teach that karma is never meant to imprison the soul forever. Its purpose is education. Every lesson understood weakens another chain. Every attachment released makes consciousness lighter. Every act performed with awareness moves the soul one step closer to freedom. And it all begins with accepting one simple truth. You are not randomly placed inside this body. You arrived here because, among countless possibilities, this was the form most capable of teaching your soul exactly what it needed to learn. The mirror before you does not reveal your final identity. It reveals the starting point of your present journey. And once you understand that, you stop seeing your body as a limitation. You begin seeing it as one of the greatest spiritual opportunities ever entrusted to your soul. If you could travel back to the moment before your birth, before your first breath, before your name was chosen, before your parents even knew you existed, what would you see? The Vedas present a remarkable possibility. They suggest that the soul does not enter the world blindly. Birth is not a random event, nor is it the result of cosmic chance. Instead, it is part of a far greater design, a design woven together by karma, divine intelligence, and the soul's own evolution. This means your body was not assigned to you by accident. It was selected because it was the exact vessel your soul required. Think about that for a moment. Out of billions of people who have lived throughout history, your soul arrived in this one body. Not another face, not another family, not another personality, not another life. This one. If that is true, then perhaps the question isn't, why wasn't I born differently? Perhaps the real question is, why did my soul choose this life over every other possibility? The answer begins with understanding that every soul has unfinished work. Some souls must learn patience. Others must learn forgiveness. Some must overcome pride. Others must discover courage. Some need to understand compassion through suffering. Others must learn humility through success. No two souls stand at exactly the same point in their journey. Each carries its own collection of lessons gathered across countless lifetimes. Because every soul is different, every life must also be different. Imagine a master teacher preparing a classroom. Would every student receive the same examination? Of course not. A beginner receives basic lessons. An advanced student receives more difficult challenges. The purpose is never to punish one student or reward another. The purpose is growth. The universe, according to the Vedas, operates with similar wisdom. Every human life is an individualized classroom designed specifically for the consciousness entering it. That includes your body. Suppose your soul needed to learn humility. Would unlimited beauty always help? Not necessarily. Sometimes extraordinary beauty becomes another distraction. It attracts praise, admiration, and attention until the person slowly begins measuring their worth through the eyes of others. Without realizing it, their identity becomes dependent upon something that time will inevitably change. Now imagine another soul whose greatest weakness has always been insecurity. Would physical perfection necessarily heal that insecurity? Again, not always. Because insecurity rarely begins in the mirror. It begins in consciousness. The body merely becomes the screen upon which inner beliefs are projected. This is why two people with similar appearances can experience themselves completely differently. One feels grateful, the other feels inadequate. The difference lies not in the body, but in the mind interpreting it. The Vedas teach that the soul chooses experiences capable of transforming consciousness, not merely experiences that feel comfortable. That distinction changes everything. Human beings naturally assume comfort is the highest blessing. The soul often seeks something higher. Growth. Think back to the moments that changed your life the most. Were they always your happiest moments? Probably not. For many people, the greatest transformations begin after disappointment, failure, heartbreak, illness, rejection, or loss. These experiences force us to ask questions we never asked during easier times. They strip away illusions. They reveal hidden strengths. They awaken compassion. They teach us what success alone never could. If comfort alone produced wisdom, every wealthy person would be enlightened. If beauty alone produced happiness, no beautiful person would ever struggle with insecurity. Reality clearly tells another story. The soul understands something the ego often forgets. Comfort is pleasant. Transformation is priceless. This is why your present body may contain exactly the challenges your consciousness requires. Perhaps you wished for greater physical strength, but maybe your soul came to develop emotional strength instead. Perhaps you wished life were easier, but maybe your soul wanted to discover resilience that comfort could never produce. Perhaps you wished you looked different, yet maybe the very appearance you resist has protected you from attachments that would have delayed your awakening. The Vedas often compare life to a carefully planned journey across a mountain. Imagine two travelers. One receives a smooth path through beautiful valleys. The other must climb steep cliffs filled with obstacles. From a distance, the second journey appears unfair. But suppose the mountain itself contains a priceless treasure that can only be reached by climbing. Suddenly, the difficult path no longer looks like punishment. It looks like preparation. Life often works this way. Many of the obstacles connected to your body may actually be directing you toward qualities your soul cannot develop any other way. Patience grows slowly. Humility rarely grows during constant praise. Compassion often develops after personal suffering. Forgiveness becomes meaningful only after pain. Faith becomes real only when certainty disappears. None of these qualities can be purchased. None can be inherited. They are forged through experience. That is why the soul chooses experiences instead of conveniences. Modern society constantly encourages comparison. Social media, advertising, and entertainment silently repeat the same message every day. You would finally be happy if you looked like someone else. You would finally feel complete if you possessed what someone else possesses. You would finally matter if people admired you more. The Vedic sages saw through this illusion thousands of years ago. Comparison is impossible because no two souls came to Earth for the same purpose. Imagine comparing a surgeon with a musician. Both serve humanity. Both require extraordinary skill. Yet their talents are entirely different because their purposes are different. In the same way, comparing your body with another person's body ignores the unique mission your soul accepted before birth. Their path is not yours. Your path is not theirs. The tragedy is that many people spend their entire lives trying to become someone they were never meant to be. Meanwhile, the person they were actually born to become remains undiscovered. The body itself contains clues about that hidden purpose. Some people possess remarkable endurance. Others naturally comfort those around them. Some communicate with extraordinary clarity. Others possess quiet wisdom that calms everyone they meet. Some are naturally drawn toward creativity. Others toward service. Others toward contemplation. Every gift points toward purpose. Even every struggle points toward purpose. A person who has battled anxiety may one day become the one who helps others overcome fear. Someone who has endured illness may become deeply compassionate toward suffering. Someone rejected throughout childhood may become the strongest advocate for people who feel invisible. The wound often becomes the birthplace of wisdom. Carl Jung once observed that our greatest wounds often become the source of our deepest strength. The Vedic tradition expresses a remarkably similar insight, teaching that the very experiences we resist may become the foundation of our spiritual evolution. This is why your body deserves respect, even when you don't fully understand it. Respect does not mean believing it is perfect. It means recognizing that it serves a purpose larger than appearance. Care for it, nourish it, strengthen it, heal it whenever possible, but stop believing it was given to you by mistake. Because if the soul truly chose this body before birth, then every feature, every strength, every vulnerability, every challenge, and every opportunity carries meaning beyond what the eyes can immediately perceive. One day, your body will grow older. Its appearance will change. Its abilities will shift. Everything physical eventually follows the laws of time. But the qualities your experiences create within consciousness remain with the soul. Your patience remains. Your compassion remains. Your courage remains. Your wisdom remains. Your love remains. These become the true treasures carried beyond this lifetime. Perhaps that is why the Vedas encourage us to stop asking whether our body is perfect. Instead, they ask a far deeper question. Is this body helping your soul become wiser than it was yesterday? Because ultimately, that has always been the purpose. Your soul did not need another person's life. It needed yours. Not because yours would always be easier. Not because yours would always be admired. But because yours contains every lesson necessary for the next stage of your eternal journey. The body you inhabit today is not evidence of cosmic randomness. It is evidence of extraordinary precision. It is the vessel your soul trusted before birth. And every day you spend learning through it brings you one step closer to becoming the person your soul always intended you to be. Every human being carries a silent question. Why wasn't I born stronger? Why wasn't I born healthier? Why wasn't I given more confidence, greater intelligence, better looks, or fewer struggles. At some point in life, almost everyone compares themselves with someone else. We notice another person's success, appearance, talents, or opportunities, and a quiet voice begins whispering, "If only I had what they have, my life would finally be complete." The Vedas invite us to challenge that voice. They suggest that what we call weaknesses may not be mistakes at all. They may be among the most carefully designed aspects of our earthly journey. This is difficult for the modern mind to accept because our culture celebrates perfection. From childhood, we are taught to chase flawless appearances, endless productivity, constant happiness, and unlimited success. Weakness is often portrayed as something to hide. Failure becomes something to fear. Struggle is viewed as evidence that life has gone wrong. But the wisdom of the Vedas points in an entirely different direction. It reminds us that the soul did not come to earth to prove its perfection. It came to discover it. And those are two very different things. If a student enters a school already knowing every answer, there is little reason for the classroom to exist. Learning only becomes possible when there are gaps in understanding. Likewise, if a soul entered human life with every quality already perfected, what purpose would this lifetime serve? Growth requires incompleteness. Transformation requires challenge. Awakening requires something to awaken from. This is why the Vedas never define weakness as failure. Instead, they see it as unfinished learning. Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. The raw metal enters the fire again and again. Each time it is heated, hammered, cooled, and reheated, impurities leave the metal. To someone watching from the outside, the process appears harsh. The metal is struck repeatedly. It bends. It glows under intense heat. It seems to suffer. Yet the blacksmith sees something the observer cannot. Every blow makes the blade stronger. Without the fire, it remains ordinary. Without the hammer, it never becomes useful. The soul undergoes a similar process. Life does not strengthen us by giving us everything we want. It strengthens us by revealing what still needs to grow. Perhaps that is why some of the wisest people in history were not those who lived the easiest lives. Many spiritual teachers experienced rejection before acceptance. Many great leaders endured failure before success. Many compassionate healers first understood suffering through their own pain. It was not the hardship itself that made them extraordinary. It was the way they responded to it. The Vedas teach that every challenge offers two possible paths. One leads toward bitterness, the other leads toward wisdom. The same experience that fills one person with resentment can fill another with compassion. The same loss that destroys one person's hope can awaken another person's faith. The outer event may be identical. The inner response creates entirely different karma. This is why the soul does not fear difficulty as much as the ego does. The ego wants comfort. The soul wants evolution. The ego asks, "How can I avoid pain?" The soul quietly asks, "What can this experience teach me that comfort never could?" That single shift changes the meaning of every weakness you carry. Perhaps your body becomes tired more easily than others. Instead of seeing that as unfair, ask yourself what patience it has developed within you. Perhaps you've experienced rejection because of your appearance. Could it be teaching you to discover worth beyond external approval? Perhaps illness forced you to slow down after years of chasing achievements. Could it be reminding you that your value never depended on constant productivity? Perhaps your sensitivity causes you to feel emotions more deeply than those around you. At times, that sensitivity may seem like a burden. Yet it may also become the reason you understand another person's suffering when everyone else overlooks it. The qualities we try hardest to eliminate often become the very qualities through which we fulfill our purpose. Consider a tree growing on the side of a mountain. Because fierce winds strike it every season, its roots grow deeper into the earth. A tree growing in perfectly calm conditions may become taller. But when storms arrive, shallow roots are quickly exposed. The mountain tree survives because hardship forced it to develop unseen strength. Human character grows in much the same way. The deepest roots are invisible. Patience, humility, faith, forgiveness, resilience. These cannot be measured by looking at someone's body, yet they are the qualities that allow a soul to remain steady when life changes without warning. The Vedas repeatedly remind us that everything physical is temporary. Beauty fades, strength declines, youth disappears, health changes, status rises and falls. If our happiness depends entirely upon these changing conditions, then peace will always remain fragile. That is why the soul seeks something more permanent. It seeks qualities that time cannot steal. Imagine receiving two gifts. One is made of crystal. It shines brilliantly, but breaks with the slightest impact. The other appears ordinary, but becomes stronger every year it is used. Which gift would truly serve you throughout your life? The world often chooses the crystal. The soul chooses lasting strength. This explains why life's greatest lessons are usually hidden inside situations we initially resist. When everything goes according to plan, we rarely question ourselves. We become comfortable. We assume life will always continue the same way. But when something unexpected happens, an illness, a failure, a betrayal, or a painful loss, the questions begin. Who am I without this achievement? Who am I if this relationship ends? Who am I if my body changes? Who am I beyond everything that can be taken away? These questions are not signs that life is falling apart. According to the Vedas, they may be signs that the soul is beginning to awaken. For the first time, consciousness starts searching for something that cannot be lost. And that search marks the beginning of genuine spiritual growth. Perhaps this is why the soul never demanded a perfect body before entering this world. It understood that perfection often feeds the ego. Imperfection, when embraced with awareness, has the power to awaken the eternal self. So the next time you look at a weakness, a limitation, or a struggle you have carried for years, pause before calling it a mistake. Ask instead, what strength is this quietly building within me? Because sometimes the greatest obstacle in your life is not standing in your way. It is pointing you toward the person your soul has always been trying to become. The Vedas teach that every soul enters this world carrying both visible and invisible burdens. The visible burdens are easy to recognize: a body that tires easily, a face that doesn't fit society's standards of beauty, a chronic illness, a disability, financial hardship, difficult family circumstances. But there are also invisible burdens: fear that no one else can see, loneliness hidden behind a smile, anxiety that appears without warning, a constant feeling of not being enough, a longing that nothing in the material world seems able to satisfy. Interestingly, the invisible burdens often shape a soul far more than the visible ones. A person may possess perfect health and still spend every day trapped by fear. Another may live with physical pain, yet radiate extraordinary peace wherever they go. This is why the Vedas never measure a person's progress by the condition of the body alone. They measure it by the condition of consciousness. The world looks at appearances. The soul looks at awareness. This difference is profound. Imagine two travelers climbing the same mountain. One carries a heavy backpack. The other walks with almost no weight. At first glance, it seems obvious who has the more difficult journey. But suppose the heavier backpack contains exactly the equipment needed to survive the climb: water, food, medicine, a compass, shelter. Meanwhile, the traveler carrying almost nothing enjoys greater comfort at the beginning, but struggles as conditions become harsher. What first appeared to be a burden slowly reveals itself as preparation. Life often works the same way. Some of the difficulties your soul carries today may actually contain the very qualities needed for the journey ahead. The challenge is that we usually understand this only in hindsight. Think about moments in your own life. Perhaps there was a disappointment that eventually redirected you towards something far better. Perhaps someone who rejected you, unknowingly, protected you from a relationship that would have caused even greater suffering. Perhaps an illness forced you to slow down long enough to reconnect with your family, your faith, or yourself. Perhaps failure humbled you before success could have made arrogance permanent. When we are inside the storm, we rarely understand its purpose. Only after it passes do we recognize how deeply it transformed us. The Vedas remind us that the ego and the soul evaluate life very differently. The ego judges every experience by one question: does this make me comfortable? The soul asks something entirely different: does this bring me closer to truth? Those two questions often lead in opposite directions. Comfort may strengthen attachment. Difficulty may strengthen wisdom. Praise may inflate pride. Criticism may reveal hidden ego. Success may increase selfishness. Failure may awaken humility. Neither comfort nor suffering is inherently good or bad. What matters is the consciousness we bring to them. The same rain that helps one seed grow may wash another seed away. Likewise, the same life experience can either imprison a person or liberate them. The deciding factor is awareness. This is why the Vedic sages never encouraged people to run away from every challenge. Instead, they taught people to transform their relationship with challenge. A sculptor does not become angry with the stone because it requires effort. He understands that effort is part of revealing beauty. Similarly, your soul is being shaped by experiences that may currently seem unnecessary or unfair. Every act of patience removes a little impatience. Every act of forgiveness weakens resentment. Every act of courage dissolves fear. Every moment of compassion softens selfishness. These transformations happen quietly. There are no dramatic announcements, no visible medals, no applause. Yet, from the perspective of the soul, these invisible victories are among the greatest achievements a human being can accomplish. This is also why the Vedas warn against envying another person's life. You can never see another person's inner lessons. You only see their outer circumstances. You may envy someone's beauty without realizing they struggle with overwhelming loneliness. You may envy someone's wealth without knowing they live in constant fear of losing it. You may envy someone's confidence without seeing the childhood wounds they still carry. Every soul is fighting battles hidden beneath the surface, and every soul is carrying lessons specifically chosen for its own evolution. Once this truth is understood, comparison begins to lose its power. Instead of asking, "Why don't I have their life?" you begin asking, "What is my own life trying to teach me?" That question changes everything, because now every challenge becomes meaningful. Every setback becomes an opportunity. Every weakness becomes a teacher. The Vedas never suggest that suffering should be welcomed for its own sake. Pain is still painful. Loss is still heartbreaking. Illness is still difficult. The wise person still seeks healing, justice, and relief whenever possible. But while doing so, they refuse to believe that suffering is meaningless. Even in darkness, they continue asking, "What quality is this experience inviting me to develop?" Sometimes the answer is patience, sometimes courage, sometimes surrender, sometimes compassion, sometimes faith. And sometimes the answer is simply learning that our deepest identity was never dependent upon the body in the first place. This may be the greatest lesson of all, because eventually every human being loses something. Youth fades, strength changes, possessions disappear, relationships evolve. One day, even the body itself must be left behind. If our identity depends entirely upon these temporary things, fear becomes unavoidable. But if our identity slowly shifts toward the eternal self, the witness that observes every stage of life, then something remarkable begins to happen. We stop asking life to remove every obstacle. Instead, we begin using every obstacle as a step toward awakening. Perhaps that was always the hidden purpose behind your weaknesses. Not to convince you that you are incomplete, but to lead you toward the part of yourself that has always been whole. The Vedas teach that the soul never came here to become perfect. It came here to remember that, beneath every limitation of the body, every fear of the mind, and every wound carried by the heart, its true nature has always been complete. And sometimes, the longest road, the hardest struggle, and the deepest weakness become the very path that leads the soul back to that eternal truth. The third golden reason your soul chose this exact body is this: your weaknesses were never placed in your life to diminish your spirit. They were carefully woven into your journey to awaken virtues that comfort could never create, revealing the strength of the eternal soul hidden beneath the temporary body. Have you ever wondered why certain patterns keep repeating in your life? Perhaps you have overcome one challenge, only to encounter another that feels strangely familiar. Maybe the faces have changed, the places are different, and the years have passed, yet the emotions remain the same. The same fear, the same attachment, the same disappointment, the same anger. It almost feels as though life keeps presenting the same lesson in different disguises. According to the Vedas, this is not an accident. Long before your present birth, your soul accumulated countless samskaras, subtle impressions left behind by every thought, every emotion, every action, and every experience across many lifetimes. Imagine dropping a pebble into a calm lake. The pebble disappears beneath the surface, but the ripples continue spreading outward. Our actions work in much the same way. The event itself may end, but the impression it leaves within consciousness continues long afterward. These impressions slowly shape our desires, fears, habits, attractions, and even the way we react to the world. Most people believe they are making completely free choices every day. The Vedas suggest something deeper. Many of our reactions happen automatically because old samskaras are silently guiding them. Have you ever noticed how two people can experience the exact same situation, yet respond completely differently? One person receives criticism and becomes furious. Another listens calmly. One experiences failure and immediately gives up. Another becomes even more determined. The event is identical. The reaction is different. Why? Because the event only touches what already exists inside the mind. Life is not creating these tendencies. It is revealing them. This is one of the greatest purposes of the human body. Your body does not simply allow you to experience the world. It allows hidden samskaras to rise into awareness where they can finally be transformed. Imagine a doctor treating a serious illness hidden deep inside the body. Before healing can begin, the disease must first become visible. The symptoms may actually become more intense before recovery begins. Spiritually, something very similar happens. Many people assume that once they begin walking a spiritual path, life should immediately become easier. Instead, they often find themselves facing old fears, buried emotions, unresolved anger, forgotten memories, and powerful temptations. They wonder, why is this happening? The Vedas answer with remarkable clarity. Because what has remained hidden cannot be healed. Every buried impression must eventually rise to the surface before it can dissolve. Think of gold being purified. Raw gold contains many impurities mixed within it. When placed into intense fire, those impurities begin separating from the precious metal. From the outside, the fire appears destructive. But the goldsmith understands something deeper. The fire is not destroying the gold. It is revealing it. Your life often works the same way. Difficult experiences are not always punishments. Sometimes they are the fire that exposes everything your soul is finally ready to release. Perhaps someone insults you. Immediately, anger arises. The other person did not create your anger. They revealed it. Perhaps someone receives the promotion you hoped for. Jealousy appears. The promotion did not create jealousy. It uncovered an attachment that was already living within your consciousness. Perhaps someone abandons you. Fear of loneliness suddenly overwhelms you. The separation did not create that fear. It simply illuminated something your soul has carried for a long time. The body becomes the stage upon which these hidden impressions finally appear. And once they appear, a choice becomes possible. You can strengthen the old pattern, or you can dissolve it forever. Every moment of awareness becomes an opportunity to rewrite the direction of your karma. The same insult that once produced hatred can now become an opportunity for forgiveness. The same disappointment that once produced despair can become a lesson in surrender. The same temptation that once controlled your life can become the moment you finally choose wisdom instead of impulse. This is how samskaras begin to lose their power, not because they disappear overnight, but because awareness slowly becomes stronger than habit. Imagine a river carving its way through a mountain. For centuries, the water follows the same path. The channel becomes deeper and deeper until it seems impossible for the water to flow anywhere else. Our subconscious habits develop in exactly the same way. Every repeated reaction deepens the groove. Anger strengthens anger. Fear strengthens fear. Attachment strengthens attachment. But human consciousness possesses an extraordinary gift. It can choose differently. Each new choice begins carving a new channel. At first, the change feels unnatural. Old habits continue pulling us backward, but gradually, awareness becomes stronger than conditioning. Eventually, the new path becomes the natural one. This is why spiritual transformation is rarely dramatic. It is usually quiet. One conscious decision at a time, one compassionate response at a time, one moment of patience at a time, one act of forgiveness at a time. The body gives the soul countless opportunities every single day to make these new choices. And with every choice, ancient samskaras lose another layer of their influence. Perhaps this is why your soul accepted this exact body. Not because it was flawless, not because it guaranteed comfort, but because it provided the perfect environment for old karmic impressions to finally surface, be understood, and gently dissolve. The struggles you face today may not simply belong to this lifetime. They may be the final echoes of lessons your soul has carried across many births. And perhaps this life was chosen because your soul knew it was finally ready to let them go. If samskaras are the invisible impressions left behind by countless experiences, then an important question naturally follows. Can they ever disappear? Or are we destined to carry them forever? The Vedas offer an answer filled with hope. They teach that every samskara can eventually be transformed. No matter how deeply rooted a habit may seem, no matter how many lifetimes of fear has followed the soul, no impression is stronger than awakened consciousness. This is why human birth is considered so precious. Among all forms of life, the human being possesses something extraordinary, the ability to observe the mind itself. Animals react primarily through instinct. When danger appears, they respond immediately. When hunger arises, they seek food. When fear emerges, they flee. But a human being can do something remarkable. A thought appears, and instead of obeying it immediately, the person can simply watch it. That silent moment of observation changes everything, because awareness creates space, and within that space lies freedom. Imagine sitting beside a river. Leaves float past on the water. Some are green, some are dry, some move quickly, others drift slowly. You don't chase every leaf. You simply watch them pass. The Vedas say thoughts, emotions, and samskaras behave in exactly the same way. Most people jump into the river. Every thought becomes my thought. Every emotion becomes my emotion. Every fear becomes my identity. Without realizing it, they spend their entire lives being carried wherever the current takes them. But the awakened seeker steps onto the riverbank. Instead of becoming every emotion, they begin observing emotions. Instead of becoming every desire, they begin watching desire arise and fade. Instead of saying, I am angry, they quietly recognize, anger is appearing within my mind. This subtle shift changes the relationship between the soul and its conditioning. The observer is no longer trapped inside the experience. The observer becomes free to choose. This is why meditation occupies such an important place in the Vedic tradition. Many people think meditation is about escaping reality. The sages taught the opposite. Meditation is about finally seeing reality clearly. When the mind becomes quiet, old samskaras begin rising naturally into awareness. At first, this surprises many people. They expect meditation to produce immediate peace. Instead, forgotten memories appear. Old fears resurface. Hidden anger reveals itself. Ancient grief suddenly returns. Some people conclude that meditation is making them worse. The Vedas explain that the opposite is happening. Imagine cleaning a room that has remained untouched for decades. The moment you begin sweeping, dust fills the air. For a short time, the room actually appears dirtier than before. But the dust was always there. Cleaning simply brought it into the light. Meditation works in the same way. It does not create inner chaos. It reveals the chaos that has quietly existed beneath the surface all along, and only what is seen can be released. This is why spiritual growth sometimes feels uncomfortable. The soul is not becoming more broken. It is becoming more honest. Old identities begin falling away. Attachments loosen their grip. False beliefs lose their certainty. The ego often resists this process because it mistakes familiarity for safety. Even suffering can become familiar. Even anxiety can become familiar. Even unhealthy relationships can feel comfortable simply because they are known. The soul, however, longs for something greater than familiarity. It longs for freedom. Imagine holding a burning piece of charcoal tightly in your hand. After a while, the pain becomes familiar. You may even convince yourself that holding it is normal. But the moment someone asks you to let go, fear appears. Not because releasing it will hurt, but because change feels uncertain. Many of our samskaras resemble that burning coal. We cling to them simply because they have become part of our identity. The Vedas gently ask, what if you are not the fear you carry? What if you are not your anger? What if you are not your insecurity? What if these are only impressions passing through consciousness? The moment this question is asked sincerely, transformation begins. Slowly, the seeker discovers that awareness itself has never been wounded. The mind has been wounded. The emotions have been wounded. The personality has been wounded. But the witnessing consciousness, the true self, remains untouched. Just as clouds cannot stain the sky, samskaras cannot stain the eternal soul. They only temporarily cover its light. This realization changes the purpose of every difficult experience. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? The seeker begins asking, what old impression is this experience helping me release? Perhaps someone insults you once again. This time, instead of reacting automatically, you remain silent for a moment. You observe the anger. You breathe. You choose compassion over revenge. At that moment, something extraordinary happens. A karmic pattern that may have repeated for lifetimes begins to weaken. The event is ordinary. The inner transformation is extraordinary. This is how ancient chains finally break. Not through dramatic miracles, but through thousands of conscious moments. One patient response, one forgiven insult, one temptation resisted, one selfish impulse transformed into kindness. The Vedas describe this as the gradual purification of consciousness. Like a mirror covered with dust, the mind slowly becomes clear enough to reflect the light that has always existed within. The light was never absent. Only the dust prevented it from being seen. Your body plays an essential role in this sacred process. These hands can serve instead of harm. This tongue can speak truth instead of anger. These eyes can learn to see beauty instead of comparison. These ears can seek wisdom instead of gossip. This mind can become disciplined instead of restless. Every part of the body becomes an instrument for dissolving old samskaras. Nothing about your body is meaningless. Every breath, every challenge, every relationship, every success, every disappointment, becomes another opportunity to purify consciousness. Perhaps this is why your soul accepted this exact human form. It knew that this life would bring the precise situations needed to expose everything still separating it from its own divine nature. Not because the journey would be easy, but because it would finally make freedom possible. And when enough samskaras have dissolved, when enough karmic chains have fallen away, when awareness becomes stronger than habit, the soul no longer reacts to life unconsciously. It begins living consciously. That is the beginning of true liberation. The fourth golden reason your soul chose this exact body is this. This body became the sacred fire where the samskaras of countless lifetimes could finally rise into awareness, dissolve through wisdom, and free your soul from repeating the same karmic patterns again and again. Imagine waking up one morning with complete amnesia. You remember nothing, not your name, not your family, not your profession, not your achievements, not even your age. Now ask yourself a simple question. Would you still exist? Most people would answer yes. Something would still be aware. Something would still be observing the world. Something would still know that it exists, even if every personal detail had disappeared. The Vedas call that silent observer the Ātman, the eternal self. According to the ancient sages, this is your true identity. Everything else is temporary. Your name was given to you after birth. Your nationality depends upon where you happen to be born. Your language was learned from those around you. Your profession changes throughout life. Even your personality evolves as the years pass. Yet despite all these changes, something within you remains constant. The child who once played in the streets, the teenager searching for purpose, the adult facing responsibilities, the elderly person reflecting on life. The body changes, the thoughts change, the emotions change. But the one who witnesses those changes remains the same. This realization lies at the heart of Vedic wisdom. The greatest suffering in human life begins when we mistake the temporary for the eternal. Think about an actor performing in a play. On stage, he becomes a king. He wears royal clothing. He sits upon a magnificent throne. People bow before him. For several hours, everyone treats him like royalty. But when the play ends, he removes the costume and walks home as an ordinary man. Now imagine something unusual. Suppose the actor forgets he is acting. He begins believing he truly is the king. He refuses to remove the crown. He orders strangers to obey him. He becomes terrified that someone might steal his throne. What would we call such a person? We would say he has confused the role with his true identity. According to the Vedas, this is exactly what happens to human beings. The soul enters the stage of life wearing the costume of a body. For a while, it plays many roles: a child, a student, a parent, a friend, a leader, a teacher, a seeker. None of these roles are false, but neither are they permanent. The problem begins when the soul forgets that it is only playing them. Instead of saying, "I have a body," it begins saying, "I am this body." That single mistake becomes the root of countless fears. If I believe I am only the body, then aging becomes terrifying. Illness becomes terrifying. Death becomes terrifying. Every wrinkle feels like the loss of myself. Every gray hair becomes a reminder that I am disappearing. Every physical limitation feels like my identity is being taken away. But what if the body is not who you are? What if it is only the vehicle through which you are experiencing this lifetime? Imagine driving a car across the country. The car may become scratched. It may need repairs. Eventually, it will wear out completely. But the driver remains separate from the vehicle. A wise driver cares for the car, keeps it clean, maintains the engine, repairs what is damaged, yet never forgets one simple truth: I am not the car. The Vedas ask us to develop the same relationship with the body, care for it, respect it, keep it healthy, allow it to rest, strengthen it, but never confuse it with the one who is driving it. This misunderstanding explains why so many people spend their lives chasing external perfection while feeling empty inside. The ego constantly whispers, if only your body looked different, then you would finally love yourself. If only you were younger. If only you were taller. If only you were stronger. If only others admired you. But have you noticed something? People who achieve these things often continue searching. The athlete wants greater strength. The millionaire wants greater wealth. The celebrity wants greater recognition. The beautiful person fears losing beauty. The cycle never ends. Why? Because the soul is searching for something that the body can never provide. The body can offer pleasure. It cannot provide lasting peace. It can provide comfort. It cannot provide permanent fulfillment. It can provide experiences. But it cannot answer the deepest question within every human heart. Who am I? This is why the Vedas describe worldly satisfaction as similar to drinking salt water. For a moment, it appears to satisfy thirst, but the more you drink, the thirst only increases. Desire behaves in exactly the same way. One achievement leads to another. One possession creates the desire for something greater. One victory becomes yesterday's memory. The mind continues saying, just one more. The soul quietly replies, I have been searching for something entirely different. That something is not another object. It is remembrance. Remembrance of our true nature. One of the most beautiful analogies in the Upanishads compares the self to the sun hidden behind clouds. On a cloudy day, someone might believe the sun has disappeared, but the sun has not gone anywhere. Only the clouds prevent it from being seen. Similarly, the soul never loses its divine nature. It simply becomes covered by ignorance, attachment, fear, and false identification. The purpose of spiritual life is not to create the self. The self already exists. The purpose is to remove everything that prevents us from recognizing it. This changes how we understand the body. Instead of treating it as the destination, we begin seeing it as the doorway. These eyes can read sacred wisdom. These ears can hear timeless teachings. These hands can serve others. This mind can contemplate truth. This heart can cultivate compassion. Every part of the body becomes meaningful, not because it defines us, but because it helps us remember who we truly are. Imagine standing before a perfectly clear mirror. When covered with dust, the mirror reflects almost nothing. You might assume the mirror itself is flawed. But once the dust is gently removed, the reflection appears effortlessly. The mirror never lost its ability to reflect. It was only covered. The human mind works in the same way. Every attachment, every fear, every selfish desire, every false belief, every ego-driven ambition becomes another layer of dust covering the awareness of the soul. As these layers are removed through meditation, selfless action, devotion, wisdom, and disciplined living, something extraordinary happens. The soul does not become divine. It realizes it always was. This realization does not make a person arrogant. Quite the opposite. It makes them humble, because they begin seeing the same divine consciousness in every living being. The stranger is no longer separate. The animal is no longer separate. Nature is no longer separate. Every form becomes another expression of the same eternal reality. Compassion begins arising naturally. Forgiveness becomes easier. Hatred loses its appeal. Comparison slowly disappears, because once you recognize yourself as consciousness, rather than merely a body, another person's success no longer threatens your own. Their light does not diminish yours. Their journey is not competing with yours. Each soul is simply walking home by a different path. This is one of the greatest freedoms the Vedas offer humanity. Freedom from the exhausting need to constantly prove your worth. Because your worth was never created by your appearance. It was never created by your achievements. It was never created by society's approval. It has always existed within the eternal self. The body changes, the witness remains. The mind changes, the witness remains. The world changes, the witness remains. Birth comes, death comes. Still, the witness remains. And perhaps that is why your soul chose this exact body. Not so you would spend your life worshiping it, nor hating it, but so that one day, through every joy and every sorrow it experiences, you would finally realize something astonishing. You were never the body. You were always the eternal consciousness experiencing life through it. The fifth golden reason your soul chose this exact body is this. This human body was given to you not to become your identity, but to become the sacred doorway through which you would eventually discover the eternal self that has existed beyond birth, beyond death, and beyond every changing form. If you were given the opportunity to design your next life, what would you choose? Would you ask for extraordinary beauty, perfect health, great wealth, unmatched intelligence, power, and influence? Most people would answer without hesitation. Of course they would. After all, the human mind naturally believes that a life filled with advantages must also be a life filled with happiness. But the Vedas ask us to pause before making that assumption. What if every gift is also a test? What if every blessing carries a hidden responsibility? And what if the greatest dangers are often disguised as our greatest successes? According to the Vedic sages, the universe is a perfect teacher. It does not only educate through suffering, it also educates through abundance. Some souls grow through hardship, others grow through success. Some awaken because life breaks them. Others awaken because life gives them everything they ever wanted, and they discover it still cannot satisfy the deepest longing within. Both paths can lead to wisdom. Both paths can also lead to ignorance. Everything depends on how consciousness responds. Imagine two people receiving the exact same treasure. The first person becomes generous, grateful, and humble. The second becomes arrogant, selfish, and consumed by fear of losing it. The treasure itself is neutral. It simply reveals what already exists inside each person. Beauty works in the same way. There is nothing wrong with beauty. The Vedas never condemn it. Beauty is another expression of creation. A flower is beautiful. A sunrise is beautiful. The stars are beautiful. Human beauty can also reflect divine creativity. The problem begins when beauty becomes identity. When a person starts believing, my worth depends upon how others see me. At that moment, beauty quietly transforms from a gift into a prison. Every compliment becomes addictive. Every criticism becomes devastating. Every wrinkle feels like a loss of identity. The person no longer enjoys beauty. They become dependent upon it. This is why the Vedas teach that attachment, not beauty itself, is the real source of suffering. The same truth applies to physical strength. Strength allows a person to protect others, to serve, to build, to endure hardship. But strength also presents another test. Will it produce humility or pride? History repeatedly shows us that power without wisdom often destroys both the powerful and those around them. Kings have fallen because of arrogance. Empires have collapsed because leaders believed themselves invincible. Even today, we see talented individuals lose everything because success convinced them they no longer needed discipline. The Vedas remind us that every talent is temporary. The body that is strong today will one day become weak. The athlete eventually retires. The champion grows old. The hands that once lifted enormous weight eventually tremble with age. Time humbles every body. Recognizing this truth does not diminish achievement. It deepens gratitude. Because we stop treating our abilities as possessions, we begin treating them as responsibilities. If beauty has been entrusted to you, use it with humility. If intelligence has been entrusted to you, use it to uplift others. If wealth has been entrusted to you, use it generously. If influence has been entrusted to you, use it wisely. Every blessing asks the same silent question. What will you become because of what you have been given? Now consider the opposite. What about suffering? Why would a loving universe allow pain? This question has echoed through every civilization. The Vedas do not offer a simplistic answer. They never claim that pain is pleasant, nor do they suggest that suffering should be ignored. Instead, they reveal something deeper. Suffering often exposes attachments that comfort keeps hidden. Imagine holding sand tightly in your fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. Life often works the same way. The more desperately we cling to youth, the more frightening aging becomes. The more tightly we cling to possessions, the greater our fear of loss. The more we attach our identity to the body, the more terrifying every physical change appears. Suffering shines a light on these attachments. It asks, what are you afraid to lose? Because whatever you fear losing most has quietly become part of your identity. This is why suffering, painful as it is, can become one of life's greatest teachers. Not because pain itself is sacred, but because it reveals where freedom has not yet been found. Think about a seed buried beneath the earth. From the outside, it appears trapped in darkness. The soil presses against it from every side. Then something remarkable happens. The shell begins to crack. If the seed could speak, it might describe the experience as destruction. In reality, it is the beginning of growth. Without the breaking, there could never be blooming. Many moments of suffering resemble that seed. The ego believes everything is falling apart. The soul quietly knows something new is being born. The Bhagavad Gita repeatedly reminds us that change is not the enemy. Attachment is. Everything in the material world changes. Bodies change. Relationships change. Fortunes change. Seasons change. Even mountains slowly change over time. Resisting change only creates additional suffering. Accepting change with wisdom creates peace. This is why two people can experience the same tragedy yet emerge completely different. One becomes bitter, the other becomes compassionate. One loses hope, the other discovers faith. One closes their heart forever, the other opens it even wider. The event does not determine the outcome. Consciousness does. Perhaps this is the deepest teaching hidden within both success and suffering. Neither one defines you. They simply reveal you. Success reveals whether humility has taken root. Failure reveals whether faith has taken root. Wealth reveals generosity. Poverty reveals resilience. Beauty reveals gratitude. Illness reveals inner strength. Praise reveals ego. Criticism reveals wisdom. Every experience becomes a mirror. The Vedas encourage us to stop asking, is this experience good or bad? Instead, they invite us to ask, what is this experience revealing about me? That question changes everything, because now life is no longer divided into fortunate moments and unfortunate moments. Every moment becomes meaningful. Every experience becomes part of the soul's education. Even the people who hurt us become unexpected teachers. Even our greatest achievements become opportunities to practice humility. Even our greatest losses become invitations to discover what can never truly be taken away. Imagine climbing a mountain. Sometimes the path rises steeply. Sometimes it becomes almost flat. Sometimes the journey feels effortless. Sometimes every step requires determination. But regardless of the terrain, the mountain remains the same. The goal remains the same. Likewise, whether life currently offers beauty or struggle, health or illness, wealth or simplicity, comfort or challenge, the soul continues walking toward the same destination. Awakening. Perhaps this is why your soul accepted exactly the life you now have. It knew that every blessing would test your humility. Every hardship would test your faith. Every relationship would test your capacity to love. Every success would test your gratitude. Every loss would test your wisdom. Nothing would be wasted. Everything could become part of your evolution. And when you begin seeing life this way, something extraordinary happens. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? Instead, you begin asking, how can I grow through this? That single question transforms your entire relationship with life, because now every experience, whether joyful or painful, becomes another step toward remembering who you truly are. The sixth golden reason your soul chose this exact body is this: your body was never designed to guarantee comfort. It was designed to experience both blessings and hardships, because together they become the perfect spiritual tests that awaken humility, wisdom, compassion, and ultimately, the realization of your eternal nature. Imagine a puppeteer standing behind a stage. From the audience, it appears as though the puppet is moving on its own. It walks, dances, laughs, and even fights. But hidden behind the curtain are invisible strings controlling every movement. Now ask yourself a difficult question. How many of your own decisions are truly free? And how many are being quietly pulled by invisible strings you never noticed? The Vedas teach that the greatest prison is not made of iron bars. It is made of attachment. Attachment is subtle. It rarely announces itself. Instead, it quietly whispers, I cannot be happy unless this happens. I cannot be peaceful unless this person stays. I cannot feel complete unless I achieve this goal. At first, these thoughts seem perfectly normal. But slowly, without realizing it, we hand our inner peace over to things that are constantly changing. our happiness becomes dependent on people, on money, on reputation, on appearance, on success, on approval. The soul, which is naturally free, begins living like a prisoner. This is why the Vedas describe attachment as one of the greatest obstacles on the spiritual path, not because love is wrong, not because success is wrong, not because relationships or achievements are wrong, but because we forget the difference between appreciating something and depending on it for our identity. Imagine holding a beautiful bird in your hands. If you hold it gently, it may choose to stay. But if you squeeze too tightly, afraid that it might fly away, you will only hurt the bird and yourself. Attachment works exactly the same way. The more desperately we cling to anything in this world, the more fear enters our lives. Fear of losing it, fear of change, fear of rejection, fear of death. The object of attachment may change, but the fear always remains the same. This is where the body becomes one of our greatest teachers. Every emotional reaction you experience through the body reveals an attachment hidden beneath the surface. Suppose someone insults your appearance. Why does it hurt? Not because words possess magical power. They hurt because they touch an identity you have built around the body. Now imagine someone insults a language you don't understand. Would you feel the same pain? Probably not. The words themselves have not changed. Only your attachment has. The body acts like a mirror. It reflects every place where the ego has quietly attached itself. This is why the Bhagavad Gita repeatedly teaches that suffering does not come from the world itself. It comes from our attachment to the way we believe the world should be. Think about anger. Most people believe other people cause their anger. The Vedas suggest something different. Anger usually appears when reality refuses to obey our expectations. Someone behaves differently than we wanted. Something doesn't happen according to our plans. Life refuses to follow the script we wrote in our minds. The attachment is not only to the outcome, it is to control. Now think about jealousy. Why do we envy another person's success? Because we secretly believe their success somehow diminishes our own. That belief can only exist if our identity depends on comparison. The attachment is not to success alone, it is to superiority. Consider fear. Many fears are actually attachments wearing different clothes. Fear of failure is often attachment to success. Fear of rejection is attachment to approval. Fear of aging is attachment to youth. Fear of death is attachment to the body. When we look deeply enough, almost every fear points towards something we have mistaken for our true identity. This is why the Vedas encourage self-observation instead of self-condemnation. The goal is not to feel guilty about your attachments. The goal is to become aware of them. Awareness is the beginning of freedom. Imagine entering a dark room. For years, you believe there's a snake lying on the floor. Every time you enter, your heart races. Your body fills with fear. Then one day, someone switches on the light. You discover it was never a snake, only a rope. The fear disappears instantly, not because the rope changed, but because your understanding changed. Many of our attachments work the same way. We believe, I must have this to be happy. I must become that person. I must never lose this relationship. I must remain young. I must always succeed. But when wisdom shines its light upon these beliefs, we begin to see something extraordinary. Everything we were desperately clinging to was temporary from the very beginning. The only thing that never changes is the awareness observing it all. The sages often compared attachment to trying to hold water in your hands. the tighter you grip, the faster it escapes. Life asks us to participate fully, to love deeply, to work sincerely, to serve wholeheartedly, but never to chain our identity to outcomes we cannot control. This is what Krishna teaches Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Act with your whole heart, but surrender your attachment to the results. At first, this sounds impossible. How can someone work without worrying about success? How can someone love without fearing loss? How can someone pursue a dream without becoming attached to achieving it? The answer lies in understanding the difference between dedication and dependence. Dedication says, I will give my very best. Dependence says, my happiness depends on the outcome. One creates peace, the other creates anxiety. The body constantly reveals which one is guiding your life. Notice what happens when things don't go your way. Does frustration immediately arise? Does your body become tense? Does your breathing change? Does anger appear? Does fear take over? These physical reactions are not enemies. They are messages. They point toward attachments waiting to be understood. Every difficult situation becomes an invitation to ask, what am I clinging to? Sometimes the answer surprises us. Perhaps we are attached to being right. Perhaps we are attached to being admired. Perhaps we are attached to certainty. Perhaps we are attached to comfort. Perhaps we are attached to an image of ourselves that no longer reflects who we truly are. The body faithfully reveals every one of these attachments, not to shame us, but to free us. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with heavy stones. At first, you hardly notice the weight. You've carried it for so long that it feels normal. Then someone removes just one stone. Immediately, the journey becomes lighter. Remove another, then another. Eventually, you wonder how you ever walked with such a burden. Attachments are those stones. Every attachment released makes the soul lighter. Every expectation surrendered creates more peace. Every illusion recognized opens the heart a little wider. This does not mean becoming indifferent to life. The Vedas never teach emotional numbness. They teach freedom. You can love someone completely without trying to possess them. You can pursue success without allowing failure to define you. You can care for your body without believing you are nothing more than the body. That is true detachment, not the absence of love, but the absence of fear. Perhaps this is why your soul chose this exact body. It knew that through relationships, through success, through failure, through praise, through criticism, through joy, and through loss, every hidden attachment would eventually reveal itself, not because the universe wanted to punish you, but because what is revealed can be released. And what is released no longer has the power to control your life. The Vedas remind us that liberation is not found by escaping the world. It is found by living in the world without becoming chained to it. Your body is the classroom where the sacred lesson unfolds every single day. Every emotion, every desire, every disappointment, every victory. Each one quietly asks the same question. Are you living from attachment or from awareness? The answer to that question determines not only the quality of this life, but the freedom of your soul. The seventh golden reason your soul chose this exact body is this. Your body was designed to reveal every hidden attachment still influencing your consciousness, so that through awareness, wisdom, and surrender, your soul could finally experience the freedom that exists beyond fear, desire, and the illusion of control. If you could erase every painful memory from your life, would you? At first, the answer seems obvious. Who would willingly keep heartbreak? Who would choose betrayal over trust? Who would choose loss instead of comfort? Who would choose pain instead of peace? But before you answer, consider another question. Would you still be the same person without those experiences? The Vedas suggest something extraordinary. The moments we spend trying hardest to forget are often the moments that shape our souls the most. Every scar tells a story. Some scars can be seen, a mark left by an accident, a body changed by illness, wrinkles earned through decades of living, gray hair that quietly announces the passage of time. But many scars remain invisible. The grief of losing someone you loved, the pain of being rejected, the loneliness of feeling misunderstood, the disappointment of dreams that never came true, the guilt of mistakes you cannot undo, the fear created by experiences no one else knows about. These invisible scars often influence our lives far more than the visible ones. Yet according to the Vedas, they are not meaningless. They are messages. Every scar asks the same question. What has this experience come to teach you? Most people spend years asking, why did this happen to me? The sages invite us to ask something deeper. What is this trying to awaken within me? That single question transforms suffering. It shifts our attention away from blame and toward understanding. Imagine a sculptor working with a massive block of marble. To someone passing by, the sculptor appears to be damaging the stone. Pieces fall away. Sharp tools strike its surface. Dust fills the air. The marble seems to be losing itself, but the sculptor sees something no one else can. Hidden within the stone is a masterpiece waiting to emerge. Every strike of the chisel removes only what never truly belonged. Life often works in exactly the same way. Pain rarely enters our lives to destroy our true nature. It enters to remove everything that hides it. Pride, attachment, illusion, false certainty, the belief that we control everything. These are often the first things suffering begins to dissolve. This is why some people become remarkably compassionate after enduring great pain. Not because pain itself is beautiful, but because it softens the heart. A person who has experienced loneliness often notices the lonely. Someone who has struggled with illness understands another patient's silent fear. A person who has survived failure encourages others instead of judging them. Without realizing it, our deepest wounds often become the places from which our greatest kindness flows. The Vedas describe this transformation as one of life's hidden miracles. The very experience that once seemed determined to break you becomes the reason someone else survives their own darkness. Think about a cracked clay pot. At first glance, it appears damaged, no longer perfect, no longer valuable. Yet imagine carrying a pot filled with water along a dusty road every day. As the water slowly leaks through the cracks, flowers begin growing along the path. The perfect pot reaches its destination with all the water intact. The cracked pot unknowingly creates beauty everywhere it goes. How many people have been comforted because of your struggles? How many conversations became meaningful because you understood pain firsthand? How many acts of kindness were possible only because you remembered what it felt like to suffer? Perhaps your scars have already begun serving a purpose you have never fully recognized. The modern world often encourages us to hide our scars, to pretend we are always confident, always successful, always strong, always happy. But the Vedas teach that pretending does not heal. Awareness heals, acceptance heals, wisdom heals. Imagine carrying a heavy stone inside your clothing every single day. At first, it feels unbearable. Eventually, you become so accustomed to the weight that you stop noticing it. One day, someone gently asks, "Why are you carrying that stone?" Only then do you realize you have forgotten it was even there. Many emotional wounds remain exactly like that. We build our identities around them. I've always been this way. I'll never trust anyone again. I'll never recover. This pain defines me. The wound slowly becomes part of the story we tell ourselves. But the Vedas remind us that pain is an experience. It is not an identity. You experienced rejection. You are not rejection. You experienced failure. You are not failure. You experienced loss. You are not loss. The witness within you, the eternal self, remained untouched through every experience. Just as the sky remains unchanged while storms pass through it, the soul remains untouched while life moves through the body and mind. This understanding does not erase grief overnight. The Vedas never ask us to suppress our emotions. Even the greatest sages acknowledged sorrow. Even Lord Rama wept when separated from Sita. Even Arjuna trembled with confusion on the battlefield before Krishna revealed the deeper wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. Feeling pain is not weakness. Remaining unconscious of its purpose is what keeps suffering alive. When awareness enters pain, something remarkable begins to happen. The experience stops being merely something that happened to you. It becomes something that transforms you. A scar is evidence that healing has already begun. The wound may have been deep. The journey may have been long, but the scar quietly whispers, "You survived." The soul carries those lessons forward, not the suffering itself, but the wisdom born from it. Perhaps that is why two people can endure the same hardship and emerge so differently. One allows bitterness to harden the heart. The other allows wisdom to open it. One closes themselves to the world. The other becomes a source of hope for countless others. The difference is not found in the wound. It is found in the meaning they choose to give it. The Vedas repeatedly remind us that consciousness always has a choice. You cannot always choose what happens, but you can choose who you become because of it. That choice creates the future of your soul. Imagine walking through a dense forest after a violent storm. Many trees have fallen. Branches lie scattered across the ground. The destruction seems overwhelming. But months later, sunlight reaches places that had remained dark for decades. New plants begin growing. Fresh life emerges where the old forest had become too crowded. The storm looked like an ending. Nature quietly turned it into a beginning. Your soul often grows in the same way. The moments that seem to end everything sometimes create the very space where your highest self can finally emerge. Perhaps that difficult relationship taught you self-respect. Perhaps that illness taught you gratitude for every ordinary day. Perhaps that failure redirected you toward the purpose you were always meant to fulfill. Perhaps losing what you desperately wanted made room for something your soul needed even more. From the limited perspective of the mind, scars represent loss. From the timeless perspective of the soul, they often represent growth. One day, when this lifetime has ended, your physical scars will disappear with the body. But the compassion you developed, the courage you discovered, the patience you cultivated, the wisdom you earned, will continue traveling with your soul. Those are the treasures no experience can ever take away. And perhaps that is why your soul accepted every challenge woven into this human life. Not because it wanted to suffer, but because it knew that beyond every wound waited another opportunity to awaken. The eighth, golden reason your soul chose this exact body is this: every scar, whether seen or unseen, became part of your soul's sacred education, transforming pain into wisdom, wounds into compassion, and life's greatest trials into the very qualities that will remain with you long after this body is returned to the earth. Imagine receiving the most advanced instrument ever created. Every part of it has been carefully designed. Every feature serves a purpose. Every detail has meaning. But instead of learning how to use it, you spend your entire life comparing it with someone else's instrument. One appears larger, another seems faster, a third looks more beautiful, a fourth attracts greater admiration. In the end, you never discover what your own instrument was actually capable of. According to the Vedas, this is how many people live their entire lives. They become so fascinated with someone else's journey that they never uncover their own. The ancient sages taught that no soul enters this world without purpose. Just as every river eventually finds its way to the ocean, every soul carries within it a unique direction, a sacred purpose known as dharma. Dharma is often translated as duty, but its meaning is much deeper. It is the natural expression of your soul. It is the unique way in which your consciousness contributes to the harmony of the universe, and your body is one of the primary tools through which that purpose is fulfilled. Think about nature for a moment. The sun does not try to become the moon. The moon does not envy the stars. A tree never wishes it were a river. A river never complains that it cannot fly like a bird. Every part of creation fulfills its own nature. Only human beings constantly compare themselves with everything around them. The Vedas suggest that comparison is one of the fastest ways to lose sight of Dharma, because when you become obsessed with someone else's path, you stop listening to your own. Imagine a master musician leading an orchestra. There are violins, flutes, drums, cellos, trumpets. Each instrument produces a completely different sound. Now imagine if every instrument decided it wanted to sound exactly like the violin. The orchestra would collapse into chaos. Its beauty depends upon diversity. Humanity works the same way. Not every soul came here to teach. Not every soul came here to lead. Not every soul came here to build businesses, write books, or stand before large audiences. Some souls came to heal. Some came to serve quietly. Some came to raise compassionate children. Some came to preserve wisdom. Some came to inspire through creativity. Some came simply to demonstrate kindness in a world desperately needing it. Every purpose matters. The ego ranks missions. The soul does not. This is why Krishna reminds Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that it is better to imperfectly follow your own dharma than to perfectly imitate someone else's. At first, those words seem surprising. Wouldn't success always be preferable? Not according to the Vedas, because success without alignment creates emptiness. You may achieve everything society celebrates, and still feel that something essential is missing. Many people spend decades climbing a ladder, only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Outwardly, they appear successful. Inwardly, they feel disconnected. The soul quietly whispers, "This is not why I came." Your body often provides clues about that deeper purpose. Notice what naturally energizes you. Some people feel alive while helping others. Some lose track of time while creating art. Some feel deeply fulfilled solving difficult problems. Others naturally bring peace into every room they enter. These tendencies are rarely accidents. They are often reflections of the soul's deeper inclinations carried across many lifetimes. The Vedas teach that talents are not random gifts handed out unequally. They are abilities cultivated through repeated effort and experience over many births. A musician may appear naturally gifted. A compassionate healer may seem born with extraordinary empathy. A wise teacher may possess unusual insight. The visible talent is only the final blossom. Its roots may extend through countless previous lives. But purpose is not determined by talent alone. Sometimes your greatest mission grows directly from your greatest struggle. A person who overcame addiction helps others find freedom. Someone who endured profound grief becomes a source of comfort for those mourning. A child who grew up feeling unseen becomes the adult who ensures no one around them feels invisible. The wound becomes the doorway. The challenge becomes the calling. This is why your body includes both strengths and weaknesses. Your strengths reveal how you can contribute. Your struggles reveal where your compassion will deepen. Together, they shape your mission. Imagine trying to complete a puzzle with only half the pieces. The picture remains incomplete. Likewise, if you only appreciate your talents while rejecting your struggles, you never fully understand why your soul chose this life. Both are essential. The Vedas repeatedly emphasize that Dharma is not something you invent. It is something you uncover. Like a statue hidden inside stone, your purpose already exists. Life simply removes everything preventing you from seeing it clearly. This is why silence is so important. Modern life constantly demands attention, notifications, deadlines, entertainment, opinions, comparison, noise. In the midst of constant distraction, the quiet voice of the soul becomes difficult to hear. Meditation is not merely a technique for relaxation. It is a way of listening. When the mind becomes still, something remarkable happens. The endless chatter begins to fade. Beneath it, a quieter intelligence emerges. It does not shout. It does not force. It gently guides. Many people describe this guidance as intuition. The Vedas describe it as the wisdom already present within consciousness. It often speaks through peace rather than excitement, through clarity rather than confusion, through service rather than selfish ambition. Your purpose rarely demands that you become someone else. Instead, it invites you to become fully yourself. Think of a seed once again. Inside a tiny seed already exists the complete blueprint of a mighty tree. The tree does not struggle to become a flower. It does not compare itself with the grass surrounding it. It simply grows according to its own nature. The same principle applies to the soul. Your purpose cannot be borrowed. It cannot be copied. It cannot be stolen. It can only be lived. This understanding removes enormous pressure. You no longer need to compete with every person you meet. You no longer need to imitate every successful life you see online. Your task is not to become another person. Your task is to fully express the consciousness that chose this body before birth. Even ordinary moments become sacred when viewed through this lens. A conversation can become part of your purpose. A simple act of kindness can become part of your dharma. A word of encouragement may alter the course of another person's life forever. The soul measures significance differently than the world. The world counts followers. The soul counts transformation. The world celebrates visibility. The soul celebrates sincerity. The world remembers fame. The universe remembers love. Perhaps this is why your soul accepted this exact body. Not because it was the strongest, not because it was the most beautiful, not because it guaranteed an easy life, but because among billions of possibilities, it possessed exactly the qualities needed to fulfill the mission your soul had prepared for across countless lifetimes. Every strength, every limitation, every relationship, every opportunity, every challenge, all of them quietly guiding you toward the purpose that has always been waiting within you. And when you finally begin living in harmony with that purpose, something extraordinary happens. Life may not suddenly become effortless, but it begins to feel meaningful. And for the soul, meaning has always been far more valuable than comfort. The ninth golden reason your soul chose this exact body is this. Your body was uniquely crafted to fulfill your dharma, the sacred mission your soul accepted before birth, using both your gifts and your struggles to serve the world in a way that no other soul can replicate. Imagine standing at the base of a magnificent mountain. Around you, hundreds of people have begun the same climb. Some are young, some are old. Some walk quickly, others move slowly. A few carry heavy backpacks. Others seem to carry almost nothing at all. Now imagine stopping your own journey every few minutes just to compare yourself with everyone else. Why are they ahead of me? Why does that person look stronger? Why does their path seem easier? Why wasn't I given what they have? Eventually, something strange happens. You become so busy watching everyone else's path that you stop walking your own. The mountain has not become impossible. Your attention has simply gone in the wrong direction. According to the Vedas, this is exactly what comparison does to the human mind. It quietly steals your ability to experience your own journey. Comparison has existed throughout history, but never before has it surrounded human beings every waking moment. With a single swipe, we can observe thousands of lives, people celebrating success, displaying beauty, sharing achievements, traveling the world, living what appears to be perfect lives. The mind naturally begins asking, why doesn't my life look like that? But the Vedas would ask an even deeper question. What if you are comparing two completely different soul journeys? Imagine opening a mathematics textbook and becoming frustrated because someone else is solving advanced physics problems. Would that comparison make sense? Of course not. Each student is studying a different subject. Each is being tested according to a different level of understanding. Likewise, every soul enters this world carrying different karmas, different samskaras, different lessons, and a different dharma. No two spiritual journeys are identical. The problem begins when the ego refuses to accept this truth. The ego survives through comparison. It constantly asks, am I better than them? Am I worse than them? Where do I rank? Notice something remarkable. Whether you feel superior or inferior, the ego still wins If you believe you are better than someone else, pride grows. If you believe you are worse than someone else, insecurity grows. Both emotions keep your attention trapped in the world of comparison. The soul seeks something entirely different. It seeks authenticity. The soul never asks, "How do I become someone else?" It quietly asks, "How do I become the fullest expression of who I truly am?" There's an old story often shared by spiritual teachers. A crow looked at a swan and thought, "The swan is so beautifully white. Surely it must be the happiest bird in the world." The swan replied, "I once believed that too, until I saw the colorful parrot." The swan envied the parrot. The parrot envied the peacock. And when the crow finally found the peacock living inside a zoo, admired by thousands of visitors, it expected to meet the happiest bird on earth. Instead, the peacock said, "I spend every day trapped inside this cage because of my beauty. You, dear crow, are free to fly wherever you wish." Each bird believed another life was better. None recognized the blessing already present in their own. Human beings often make the same mistake. We compare our beginning to someone else's middle, our private struggles to someone else's public victories, our ordinary days to someone else's carefully edited highlights. But comparison is built upon incomplete information. You rarely see another person's fears. You rarely witness their sleepless nights. You rarely know the sacrifices behind their success. You rarely understand the karmic burdens they silently carry. The Vedas remind us that every soul is fighting battles invisible to the outside world. One person struggles with loneliness, another with pride, another with anxiety, another with attachment, another with illness, another with meaninglessness despite material success. The forms are different, the lessons are different, the purpose remains the same: growth. Imagine two seeds planted in different environments. One becomes an oak tree, another becomes a mango tree. Would it make sense for the mango tree to feel like a failure because it doesn't produce acorns? Would the oak tree envy the sweetness of mangoes? Of course not. Each fulfills its own nature. Each contributes something unique to the world. The same is true for every human being. Comparison only becomes possible when we forget our Dharma. Krishna speaks directly to this truth in the Bhagavad Gita. He teaches Arjuna that it is far better to imperfectly fulfill one's own Dharma than to perfectly imitate another person's. These words contain profound wisdom, because living another person's life, even successfully, still leaves your own purpose unfulfilled. Think about an orchestra once again. Imagine every instrument trying to sound exactly like the violin. The drums fall silent, the flute abandons its melody, the trumpet loses its boldness, the music disappears. Harmony is created not by sameness, but by each instrument expressing its own nature. Humanity is no different. The world does not need 8 billion copies of one successful person. It needs each soul expressing the gifts that only it can bring. Comparison also creates another dangerous illusion. It convinces us that external achievements determine inner worth. The world celebrates titles. The soul celebrates character. The world admires popularity. The soul values integrity. The world notices appearance. The soul notices awareness. Imagine two people reaching the end of their lives. One accumulated extraordinary wealth but never learned compassion. The other lived simply but transformed countless lives through kindness. Which life was more successful? The answer depends entirely upon how success is defined. The Vedas define success differently than the modern world. Success is not measured by how much you possess. It is measured by how much consciousness has evolved. Did you become more loving, more patient, more truthful, more fearless, more compassionate, more aware of your eternal nature? These are the achievements the soul carries beyond death. Everything else remains behind. One of the greatest signs of spiritual maturity is this: another person's success begins to inspire you instead of threatening you. You celebrate their journey without abandoning your own. You recognize that the universe is abundant enough for everyone to fulfill their purpose. Just as one candle loses nothing by lighting another, your light is never diminished by someone else's brightness. In fact, the awakened soul understands something beautiful. Every person's unique journey enriches the whole of humanity. The teacher needs the farmer needs the physician needs the artist needs the engineer. Every role supports every other. No contribution is insignificant when performed with sincerity. Perhaps that is why your soul chose this exact body. It knew that comparison would tempt you. It knew the world would constantly encourage you to measure yourself against others. But it also knew that one day, through wisdom, through experience, through self-discovery, you would stop asking, "Why wasn't I born as someone else?" and instead begin asking, "How can I become everything my own soul came here to be?" The moment that question becomes more important than comparison, your real spiritual journey begins, because you finally stop chasing another person's destiny and start living your own. The 10th golden reason your soul chose this exact body is this: your body was never meant to compete with anyone else's. It was uniquely given to you so that you could fulfill your own dharma, walk your own karmic path, and discover that true spiritual growth begins the moment comparison ends and authentic living begins. Imagine that you are given a single ticket to enter the most extraordinary university ever created. Inside its walls lies everything you need to achieve your highest potential. Every lesson, every teacher, every opportunity for growth is waiting for you. But there's one condition. You will receive this opportunity only once. Would you treat that ticket carelessly? Would you waste the chance? Or would you recognize its immeasurable value? According to the Vedas, every human being has already received such a gift. That gift is the human body. Among the countless forms of life that exist throughout creation, the Vedic sages describe human birth as one of the rarest and most precious opportunities a soul can receive. This idea may seem surprising at first. After all, human life is filled with uncertainty. We experience illness. We experience heartbreak. We grow old. We lose the people we love. If human birth is such a blessing, why does it include so much suffering? The answer lies in understanding what makes the human experience unique. The Vedas teach that every living being possesses consciousness. Plants grow toward sunlight. Animals experience emotion. Birds build nests with astonishing precision. Nature is filled with intelligence. Yet human beings possess an extraordinary ability that sets them apart. The ability to ask, "Who am I?" No lion sits beneath a tree wondering about the nature of existence. No eagle spends years contemplating the meaning of consciousness. No deer questions the purpose of life. They live according to instinct. Human beings possess instinct as well. but we also possess something greater: self-awareness. We can observe our own thoughts. We can question our desires. We can choose compassion over impulse. We can sacrifice immediate pleasure for lasting wisdom. Most importantly, we can consciously seek liberation. This capacity makes human birth unique. Imagine standing before two doors. One leads deeper into unconscious living. The other leads toward awakening. Only a human being can consciously choose between them. That freedom is both a gift and a responsibility. The Vedas often compare human life to a boat crossing a vast ocean. The ocean represents the endless cycle of birth and death. The storms represent life's challenges. The destination is liberation. Your body is the boat. Spiritual wisdom is the map. The guru, or true teacher, is the skilled navigator. But even with the finest boat and the clearest map, one thing is still required. You must decide to begin the journey. Many people spend their entire lives decorating the boat. They polish it, compare it, show it to others, worry constantly about how it appears. Meanwhile, they never leave the shore. The Vedas gently remind us that the body was never meant to become our destination. It was meant to carry us toward one. Think about a temple. People admire its beautiful architecture, its intricate carvings, its sacred atmosphere. But no one enters a temple simply to worship the building itself. The temple exists to direct attention towards something greater. Your body serves a similar purpose. It is sacred, not because it is the ultimate reality, but because it provides access to it. These eyes can behold beauty and recognize the intelligence of creation. These ears can hear teachings that awaken the heart. This tongue can speak truth instead of deception. These hands can serve rather than harm. This mind can reflect upon eternal wisdom. Every part of the human body becomes meaningful when used consciously. This is why the Vedic tradition encourages caring deeply for the body without becoming attached to it. Neglect is ignorance. Obsession is also ignorance. Wisdom lies in balance. A musician carefully maintains a precious instrument, not because the instrument is the music, but because beautiful music depends upon it. Likewise, your soul expresses itself through this body. The healthier and more disciplined the instrument becomes, the more clearly the soul's wisdom can shine through it. Yet even the most extraordinary instrument eventually wears out. The body is no exception. Every day, millions of cells die and are replaced. The child you once were no longer exists physically. The teenager disappeared. The adult continues changing. Science tells us that much of the body's cellular structure renews itself over time. The Vedas recognized this deeper truth long ago. Everything material is constantly changing. Yet despite all these physical transformations, something within you has remained astonishingly constant. You still feel like I. That unchanging awareness is the self. The body grows older. The witness remains untouched. This understanding transforms the fear of aging. Instead of seeing every wrinkle as evidence of decline, the wise begin seeing it as evidence of a journey. Each line tells a story. Each gray hair reflects another season of learning. Each passing year offers another opportunity to grow in wisdom rather than merely in age. The Vedas never promise that the body will remain forever young. They promise something far greater, that your deepest identity has never depended upon youth at all. Imagine borrowing a beautiful garment for an important ceremony. You wear it with gratitude. You care for it throughout the event. When the ceremony ends, you respectfully return it. You do not mourn the clothing. You appreciate the experience it allowed you to have. The Vedas describe death in much the same way. The soul eventually lays aside one body, just as a traveler changes worn-out clothes. The journey continues, only the garment changes. This perspective does not remove grief, but it transforms fear. Death becomes not the destruction of consciousness, but the completion of one chapter in an eternal journey. That is why wasting human life concerns the Vedic sages far more than death itself. A long life without awareness accomplishes little. A shorter life lived consciously can transform a soul forever. Every sunrise becomes another invitation. Every breath becomes another opportunity. Every conversation becomes another chance to choose love over ego. This is the true value of the human body. Not simply that it lives, but that it can awaken. Perhaps this is why the scriptures repeatedly describe human birth as difficult to obtain, not because God wishes to make it exclusive, but because countless experiences across many lifetimes prepare the soul for this remarkable opportunity. The ability to question, to seek, to meditate, to love consciously, to forgive intentionally, to recognize the eternal self. These possibilities exist because of the body you inhabit today. Think for a moment about all the people who have changed the course of history through compassion rather than conquest. Great sages, saints, mystics, teachers. They were born with human bodies just like yours. They experienced hunger, fatigue, pain, loss, doubt. Yet they used those very experiences to awaken extraordinary wisdom. Their bodies were not obstacles. They became instruments. The same possibility exists within every human life, including yours. Perhaps you have spent years wishing for a different appearance, a different family, a different beginning, a different life altogether. But what if the greatest gift was never another body? What if the greatest gift has always been recognizing the sacred opportunity hidden within the one you already have? Because this body can breathe, it can serve, it can love, it can learn, it can meditate, it can realize the eternal truth. That opportunity is more valuable than any worldly achievement. And one day, when this lifetime comes to an end, it will not matter how attractive your body was. It will not matter how many possessions you accumulated. It will not matter how many people admired you. The question will be far simpler. Did you use this precious human birth to awaken the soul that lived within it? That is the question the Vedas quietly place before every human being. And perhaps that is the very reason your soul waited so long to receive this extraordinary gift. The 11th golden reason your soul chose this exact body is this. Among countless forms of life, the human body is the rarest spiritual opportunity, a sacred vessel that gives the soul the unique ability to question, awaken, realize its true nature, and ultimately move toward liberation. What do you think happens in the final moment of life? For thousands of years, this question has fascinated philosophers, scientists, spiritual seekers, and ordinary people alike. Some believe death is the absolute end. Others believe it is the beginning of something beyond our imagination. The Vedas offer one of the oldest and most profound answers ever recorded. They teach that death is not the end of you. It is only the end of your relationship with one particular body. Imagine staying in a beautiful house for many years. Within its walls, you laugh, you cry, you celebrate birthdays, you create memories, you decorate each room until it feels like an extension of yourself. But eventually, The day comes when you must move. Leaving the house may be emotional. You may look back one last time, but no matter how attached you became, one truth remains. You were never the house. You were simply living inside it. According to the Vedas, the body is much like that house. For decades, we become deeply attached to it. We call it me. We spend years protecting it, improving it, decorating it, and worrying about it. Yet when death arrives, the soul quietly steps out. The resident leaves. Only the house remains. This idea is beautifully expressed in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells Arjuna that just as a person discards worn-out clothes and puts on new ones, the soul leaves an old body and accepts another suitable for its continuing journey. Notice the simplicity of this image. Changing clothes is natural. It is not a tragedy. The clothes may become old, damaged, or no longer useful, but the person wearing them continues to exist. The Vedas ask us to view death through the same lens, not as annihilation, but as transition. Of course, this does not mean death is emotionally easy. When someone we love leaves this world, we grieve. We miss their voice, their laughter, their presence. The scriptures never tell us that grief is wrong. Even Lord Rama grieved. Even Arjuna was overcome with sorrow before the Kurukshetra war. Love naturally mourns separation. But the Vedas gently remind us that separation is not the same as destruction. The relationship changes. The soul continues. Imagine watching a butterfly emerge from its cocoon. If you had never seen the process before, the empty cocoon might seem like evidence that something precious had disappeared. In reality, the butterfly has not ceased to exist. It has simply moved into another form of experience. The body resembles that cocoon. It serves an essential purpose, but it is not the final destination of the soul. This understanding changes the way we think about life itself. If death is not the end, then every action matters beyond this lifetime. Every choice shapes consciousness. Every act of kindness, every moment of forgiveness, every selfish decision, every compassionate response. Nothing is wasted. Everything becomes part of the soul's continuing journey. This is why the Vedas place such importance on karma. Karma is not merely about reward and punishment. It is about continuity. The consciousness you cultivate today becomes the foundation of tomorrow's experience. Imagine planting seeds in a garden. Some seeds grow quickly. Others remain beneath the soil for months before emerging. Still others take years to become great trees. Our actions work similarly. Some produce immediate results. Others mature much later. Some may even continue influencing future lifetimes. Death does not interrupt this process. It simply marks the end of one growing season before another begins. The sages often compared the soul to a traveler. A traveler visits many cities during a long journey. Each city offers different lessons, different landscapes, different companions, different challenges, yet throughout the entire journey, the traveler remains the same. Likewise, the soul moves through many bodies across many lifetimes, gathering wisdom through each experience. The body changes. The traveler continues. This perspective also transforms how we view aging. Modern culture often treats aging as something to fear. Every wrinkle is hidden. Every gray hair is resisted. Every sign of time becomes an enemy. The Vedas suggest something radically different. Aging is not evidence that life is losing meaning. It is evidence that the soul is nearing the completion of another chapter. Think about the changing seasons. Spring becomes summer, summer becomes autumn, autumn becomes winter. No season is superior to another. Each has its own beauty, each fulfills its own purpose. Human life follows a similar rhythm. Childhood is for learning, youth is for exploration, adulthood is for responsibility. Later years often become a time for reflection, wisdom, and inner awakening. Every stage prepares the soul for the next. Death is simply the final season of one lifetime. But the Vedas also teach something deeply important. The state of your mind at the end of life carries great significance. Not because one final thought magically determines everything, but because that final thought usually reflects the direction in which consciousness has been trained throughout life. Imagine a river flowing steadily toward the ocean. Its final movement is simply the continuation of the course it has followed all along. Likewise, the consciousness present at death reflects the habits developed over decades. This is why spiritual practice is never postponed until old age. The mind becomes what it repeatedly practices. A mind trained in gratitude naturally remembers gratitude. A mind trained in compassion naturally reflects compassion. A mind constantly absorbed in fear, greed, or anger tends to return to those patterns as well. Every day of life becomes preparation, not preparation for death alone, but preparation for awakening. This understanding removes much of the fear surrounding mortality. Death is no longer viewed as an enemy suddenly appearing without purpose. It becomes another doorway in the soul's endless journey. The body has completed its work. The lessons of this chapter have been learned. The traveler continues onward. This perspective also changes how we care for one another. Every person you meet is an immortal soul temporarily living within a mortal body. The elderly are not simply aging bodies. They are ancient travelers carrying experiences you cannot see. Children are not empty minds. They are souls beginning another chapter of an eternal journey. Even strangers become easier to respect when you recognize that each one carries a story extending far beyond this lifetime. Compassion naturally grows. Judgment begins to fade. Because everyone is walking toward the same ultimate destination, even if their paths look completely different. And perhaps this was always one of the deepest reasons your soul chose this exact body. Not because it would last forever. It was never meant to. It was chosen because it offered the perfect classroom for this chapter of your eternal journey. One day, you will leave it behind. But the love you cultivated, the wisdom you gained, the compassion you developed, the awareness you awakened, will continue traveling with you. Those are the only treasures death cannot touch. The body returns to the earth. The soul continues toward its next horizon. And when you truly understand this, life itself becomes infinitely more meaningful. Because every single day becomes an opportunity to prepare not merely for the end of this life, but for the continuation of an eternal one. The 12th golden reason your soul chose this exact body is this: your body was never meant to be your permanent home. It was a temporary sacred vessel, perfectly chosen for one chapter of your soul's eternal journey, preparing you for the moment when you would leave it behind, carrying only your consciousness, your karma, and the wisdom you earned through this life.